If you watch my videos, you know I took a look at Dead Hard at high MMR to see how often it's really uncounterable. But since I also had to watch 12 hours of gameplay from these two killer mains, I figured I would also do a comparison video since they played each killer with the same restrictions. Some disclaimers. Yes, I realize I have the benefit of watching in hindsight. No, I don't think I would do better on this challenge. I'm only critiquing their gameplay and anything they said during it, so if you have problems with them for some unrelated reason, just keep it to yourself. Lastly, this is my opinion and feel free to disagree in the comments. Alright, let's get into it. 26 killers, no perks, 30-second head start for the survivors. First, let's hear the motivations for the challenge. Here's Otz on why he's doing this.
The thing I'm trying to prove is that if you're experienced at the game, you can still keep a really good win score. And obviously, we took any shortcut we could. Tunneling, if it was possible, I did it. Slugging everyone as soon as possible, if I think I can get away with it, I would have absolutely no problem doing that. I played as dirty as I possibly could. Well, we're not playing for fun. We're playing for science.
Basically, and he explains it much better in this video, Otz is testing whether the game is balanced when the killer plays as efficiently and as mean as possible. Now let's hear it from TrU.
I'm doing this because I just want to see if my, the perception of reality, what I believed was you can't do well with this if you're going against good players. I wanted to see for myself because I know I go against really good players.
So while Otz believes that the game is pretty balanced, albeit around scummy gameplay like camping and hard tunneling, TrU obviously believes it's survivor-sided, as he has said this often in the past, and if he's looking to challenge his worldview, then he's looking for evidence that his opinions are wrong. But this is where I have a problem with a direct comparison, because TrU didn't play nearly mean enough to see a clear result. He admits this multiple times.
Though we played in a more fun way, we didn't, because I don't want to be camping hooks and everything doing this. That seems. I am also playing in a bit more of a fun way. I really don't want to do this and just camp all the time. When it's end-game collapse, fair enough, but I don't want to just camp like all game. I didn't play in the lamest way. I could have played a bit lamer. Maybe I could have pushed a few of them to 1 and some of them to 2. But I'm not playing this game lame all the time. It's not very fun to me.
Compare this to Otz.
Oh my god, I have a chance to be a cunt here.
So to me, this is like saying you want to challenge your views on, say, climate change. So you Google it, but then you only click links from Fox News. I don't think TrU gave this challenge a real shot to change his mind. Which would be fine, except he keeps drawing conclusions like he is playing the same challenge.
How's the experiment been going? It almost surprised me at the start, but now it's going back to how I would have imagined how the game's going through. As expected, they weren't at the start. At the start, I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. But now it's kind of falling into the norm, sadly. So my reality was slightly getting broken, kind of, but through playing more, I can see it.
So in my opinion, it was a little disingenuous to say you want to challenge your worldview but then not give full effort to the result. I think Otz came in with a clear goal, and by the end he felt that he had given his best effort to prove it, while TrU came in saying he wanted to see for himself but then didn't really do all he could to test his worldview. Whether this is on purpose for his audience, out of stubbornness, or just not understanding the point of Otz's challenge, I'm not really sure. The closest he comes to seeing Otz's point of view is in this clip.
Usually, having high MMR should be like a badge of honor in a game. Like, it should be like, you're good and you're experiencing that game at that level. It does say that you're good, but you're not experiencing the game as intended, really. You're not really experiencing the game in a very fun manner.
Which is Otz's whole point, that the game is unfortunately balanced around mean and boring playstyles.
From my experience and as much as I've been able to gather, I do think that in a very messed up way, this game is somewhat balanced.
Anyway, enough about the reasoning, now let's look at the games. Obviously maps, items, and survivor skill can make a huge difference when directly comparing killer games, so I try to be as reasonable as possible. Lots of comments noted that TrU survivors seemed a lot better, so I sorted out what I thought based on the matches as I watched them. I looked for gen speed, smart decisions, teamwork, patience while looping, the normal marks of good survivors, and found that TrU did have more difficult matches overall. The YouTuber Choi made a video that found that the challenge is easier at night, so that may have contributed. I also think TrU is a bit higher in MMR because he uses pure meta and very strong add-ons consistently. He made comments on multiple games where he was used to strong add-on timing with certain killer powers. But that's not to say all of Otz's survivors were potatoes either. And I'm a strong believer that good killer gameplay can throw survivors off their game very quickly. But while TrU had more tough teams overall, I don't believe that explains the discrepancy in their results completely. For that, we'll need to go game by game. Starting with the Trapper, they both got fucked up. Good survivors on both sides. Otz's were a little bit of a bully squad, but they were still efficient. TrU's were good, maybe he had a chance for a 2K when he had a down and a hook, but I can't say for sure. Wraith was the same story. Otz actually got an early DC from tunneling, but the final 3 survivors were smart on gens, and even trying to bleed out a survivor didn't work. TrU also had very efficient survivors. I do think he spent a little too much time mind gaming, but it still felt pretty unwinnable past a 1k. With Billy, they both used his insta-down pretty well to create enough pressure for a win. Otz played a really smart Steve and Meg, and this dead hard actually ended up costing him an escape. TrU also faced 2 okay survivors and 2 strong survivors, and actually could have slugged for the 4k if he wanted. He seems pretty confused on his win as well.
Crazy, man. That's cool. I didn't expect that at all. I really didn't.
Nurse is the first major skill split, not to mention Otz got the game and TrU got Adzerov's. Otz tunneled pretty hard and had a DC, the survivors seemed average, and finished with 2 gens left. TrU, on the other hand, had survivors that knew exactly how to play against the Nurse, along with very well placed dead hards that killed his early game pressure. This is a great match to watch if you want to know how to counter Nurse well. The Huntress game showed good killer pressure from both killers, although I have to say TrU is a much better Huntress and had a few fun mind games I hadn't seen before. This was Tru's best game of the challenge in my opinion, but the survivors both killers faced seemed about equal. Myers was rough to watch from both sides, but here Otz had noticeably weaker survivors and was able to get an ending snowball off of their mistakes. TrU, on the other hand, literally played a comp team who finished the gens in 3 minutes flat, with gates open at 3 minutes 38 seconds. Pretty much no shot for him to win here. For Hag, Otz played a squad that did gens decently, but also wasted some time trying to bully a bit, but not near good enough to beat a killer that Otz has played so much. TrU actually played correctly mean enough here, securing an early basement kill and then turning it into a 4k by the end. Good games from both sides, but TrU survivors were playing a little bit more seriously, so I'll give them the edge in difficulty. With Doctor, Otz played a bit mean against what looked like average survivors, while TrU played well against not so good survivors, and he could have 4k'd if he slugged for Hatch. At this point, he was questioning if his worldview was wrong, but I think it was just luck of the draw in survivor groups because he still wasn't really playing that mean. In the Bubba games, Otz did use a bit of the tried and true optimal Bubba gameplay by proxy camping his basement hook, and that pressured the survivors enough to lead to a win. But for TrU, I kind of feel like this is the game that broke him for the rest of the challenge. He got a tough bad M map, gens went quick, and it was topped off by a 4% Kobe in his face. Since Bubba is the ultimate camper, he could have played meaner, but his survivors were definitely better than Otz's. The Freddy game had a pretty solid group of survivors for Otz, but he played really well and showcased Freddy's strength with things like faking teleports and quick snare placement. TrU survivors looked worse to me for sure, and this is definitely when he just started playing way too nice. He had a basement hook he easily could have pressured and survivors who made dumb mistakes, but he wasn't willing to take full advantage. With Pig, Otz got Midwich, and though he played well, it is a great map for her. TrU had a pretty bad start and good survivors. I thought maybe he switched targets a bit too often, but it would be a tough one to win either way, so I'll give him the edge in game difficulty. Clown was the beginning of Otz playing very nasty for wins, and it paid off throughout the rest of the challenge. TrU played an annoying group of Survive with Friends with a brand new part, and he just couldn't really get any pressure, although he did mess up the pressure on a few rescues. Here I also noticed TrU making some strange mistakes, so I think being 3 hours into Killer was wearing on him a bit. Otz's Spirit game was a fucking clinic on how to pressure survivors. It's hard to judge their skill, it'd be like judging a boxer who starts the round getting immediately knocked down. During TrU's gameplay, one of his chat used this game as proof that Otz's survivors weren't that good, but he played the shit out of this game and it's hard to counter that off the bat. Great use of slugging and proxy camping pressure here. On TrU's side, he got Haddonfield and definitely had survivors that knew Spirit a little better. They finished the gens in 3 minutes 58 seconds, so TrU definitely had the harder game. For Legion, Otz got Dead Dog Saloon and tunneled for a DC, but he also used the power really well for pressure. I'm not complaining about any of this, by the way. Again, that's the whole point of the experiment. I didn't see that much better survivors on TrU's side, but he did spend way too long chasing one good looper, which I think threw the game. Legion's power is also about pressure through injury, and most of the survivors were healthy all of TrU's games, so I don't think he used it that well. Plague. In my opinion, Otz's Plague game was the best game of the 52. If you're only going to watch one, I suggest this one. Constant back and forth, he almost snowballs, 3 gens done in 1 minute 42 seconds, just a really good and exciting game all around. TrU also played some tough survivors with 3 Styptic agents in RCPD, but he also had some pretty bad strategies, like chasing one survivor way too long, and he didn't try and get an infection on everyone at the start. Although he did get some karma on Meg at the end. I'll give a tie here. Maybe TrU survivors were a little better, but I don't think he played well, so it was hard to tell. The Ghostface game is the best game to compare the two killers in my opinion. They had similar strength survivors and both had a huge map, but here Otz's pressuring and killer power skill really showed up. 2 gens were done at 55 seconds, but his first 4 downs were exposed downs, and he really salvaged all he could from this game with some strong play. TrU, on the other hand, did way too many non-exposed hits and spent too much time on one survivor. Some really baffling decisions here from him, like this 14-second mind game.
Wait, I hear her. She's waiting there for me. Wait. She's literally waiting there for me. Wait. Spartan, thank you for the 3 months.
That's how I play when I'm just messing around, not what you do to get wins with no perks. These two games I think really show how well Otz can use a killer power in comparison to TrU, who I think prefers general mind games and strong perks and add-ons to win games. This trend continues in the next few games as it seems like TrU gets more and more worn down while Otz is completely in the zone. The demo game from Otz features some brutal tunneling that even a guy in his chat gets mad about.
You could not tunnel. Wow, you win by running game for one person. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I'm only doing all of this in the name of science.
The survivors were okay and fell apart pretty quickly. Meanwhile, TrU's were faster on gens, but he also played very poorly, choosing to chase one guy at a strong shack setup while everyone else was on the other side of the map. The other survivors didn't seem that good, but mistakes like not waiting out dead hard made me think he was losing focus. He did end up with 2 kills on 3 downs though. Around this time I wrote a note that said, "Getting tired of TrU's effort," which basically means I felt he was on autopilot during the second half of the experiment. With Oni, Otz definitely wasn't facing the most amazing survivors, but he still applied pressure well. TrU had quick gens, but also had a big miss that would have let him immediately pressure a save with Oni's power. To me, it didn't seem like his survivors were that much better, so I'll leave it as a tie. Deathslinger was another great game just like Plague. Otz missed a few shots, but it really came down to the wire. Survivors played great and gave him his first 1K since Wraith. TrU, on the other hand, had good survivors, but also a good map, and some bad luck in who he chose to tunnel. He did take some dumb shots, which further made me think he was getting tired. Like, hitting this shot is pointless because they're already injured and you know you won't get the down. He also had a basement hook that he didn't pressure very well, so I'll give the tougher game to Otz here. I think comparing the 30 seconds AFK start of both of these games really shows how much harder Otz was trying to win.
So we got pallet here. I think that's a pallet. Yeah, that's a pallet there. LT wall over here. Seems like empty until this a little bit. Some gems nearby, which are kind of nice. It's a bit of a 3-gen over here. Yeah, we could hold this side. The 3-gen on the main building's not even that strong.
Alright.
For Pyramid Head, Otz had crazy good starting pressure, and eventually that led to the survivors just messing around because they had no chance. TrU's gens were done in 3 minutes 51 seconds, he had 1 long chase and bad cage RNG, so difficulty goes to him here. On the Blight game, Otz was caught cheating with an add-on, but he still played a good game, used Blight's power well and all that.
Sorry, I was waiting for the card.
TrU played a very toxic squad, like so bad I felt like they knew who he was. He made some mistakes, like not baiting dead hard when he could have with Blight rushes, but with 3 gens done in 85 seconds, there wasn't much he could do. Felt bad for him after this one to be honest, so good on him for shaking it off. Twins gave Otz another 1K, and it was one of the few games of his where I thought he dropped the ball. He had a great moment with 2 downs early on, but the survivors recovered, and from there he just couldn't seem to get the pressure he needed. Every chase just seemed to take a bit too long, and there was a lot of time just looking for a survivor. TrU also had good pressure on everyone in the first half, but really slowed down and started playing like he had a lot of time for some reason, so I give the edge to Otz in difficulty. Trickster was Otz's meanest game so far. He put 1 survivor in the basement, then camped and killed everyone else when they came to rescue, so it was hard to tell how good they were. TrU's Trickster game was the worst by far in terms of effort. I was legitimately getting angry watching it. So many bad decisions, survivors who weren't doing gens, no pressure, they even tried to throw at the end and he still only got a 1K. If you're a TrU fan, go watch this game and honestly try to explain how he lost this one. He had a flashlight survivor literally following him all match, the Leon couldn't loop, and the Michaela was setting up like 50 boons. I'm pretty sure only Jill was doing gens. Really bad focus and effort here from TrU. And the main reason all this annoyed me so much is that he kept talking about how hard his matches were after.
As I expected. I don't know what the frick were up with the games at the start. That's an anomaly. I don't understand that at all.
Yes, there were a few crazy ones, but this was not one of those. If you want to know how to slug for pressure, watch Otz's Nemesis game, because that's exactly what he does. Again, I don't have a problem with this, because that's literally the point of his experiment. TrU had slow gens, but still only came away with a 2K. Not much to say here, I just feel that he had given up by this point.
Gen-wise, they're being a bit more chill this team, I would say.
For Pinhead, Otz had some great box spawn RNG, but he still played well and actually almost lost it due to 1 longer chase. TrU, on the other hand, just wasn't that good at using the killer power. His first chase was 3 minutes and 15 seconds, but the survivors weren't doing anything special.
Don't matter there though, is that a pallet?
Finally, the artist. Otz's survivors weren't that skilled at looping, but they were efficient on gens and had some good items. He also got lucky with Midwich again. TrU continued his bad game streak as the survivors took 9 minutes and 9 seconds to do all 5 gens, but he came away with no kills. Again, unfocused play and not playing mean at all just gave him loss after loss toward the end. So yes, I do think TrU had better survivors overall, but watch his last few games. I think Otz easily could have bumped his kill average to 2.5 or maybe even 3 if he played the same exact matches. In terms of gameplay, I just found that TrU went for too many mind games games and often didn't use his killer power well. I do realize Otz has a lot more hours in the game and puts a lot of time into really understanding game mechanics, so I'm not trying to be mean when I say Otz just played a much better killer throughout the experiment. It was really impressive that he can stay focused for 6 hours of killer, while it was clear that TrU started to get bored and play on autopilot, messing up mind games, not waiting for dead hard, or just making strange gameplay decisions.
I could have just waited there and slugged him. But like, it's boring gameplay, man. Let's just move to this one.
So with the lack of effort in the second half of games, combined with not playing mean at all, saying this...
But I did try to win. I weren't trying to purposely lose. So there you go.
Just feels a bit lame to me. I gotta side with Otz on this one, and I would love to see TrU try it again, maybe over the course of a few days, and really play like a dick.
What else can I do to maybe prove to people that if you play ruthlessly and if you take advantage of any small mistakes survivors make, that this game is not super fucking easy for survivors?
Did you watch any of the games in full? What do you think about Otz's conclusions? Do you like analysis content on this channel? Let me know in the comments below.